Hello, everybody. This is episode 12 of Existential, and today we talk about technology's relationship with hedonism and the way technology affects us in our everyday life. Before we dive in, I want to give a brief thanks to our sponsor. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. Number one, it's free. There are creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will also distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more platforms. You can make money from your podcast as well with no minimum listenership, meaning that you can make money and monetize your work without having a million or even 100,000 listeners. You can start right from zero. Lastly, everything you need to make a podcast is in one centralized location. It's all in one place. There are no excuses not to make a podcast. I know so many people who want to make a podcast and they just are scared of it. Anchor makes it so easy. Anchor removes all the reasons why you should not make a podcast and gives you countless reasons why you should. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. All right, so before we begin, I actually want to give a thank you to all of you guys who've been listening. This podcast has been taking off beyond my expectations. I will not share the exact statistics quite yet, but I'm overly satisfied with the amount of people who have been listening to each episode. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it. This is really not just a dream or a vision of mine, but it's really a means of expression, and I really makes me feel great that people are out there actually listening and appreciating the content I'm giving you guys, because I really do put a lot of effort in here. I put a substantial effort in each episode. So thank you so much, guys, for keeping with me and listening. So episode 12, technology's relationship with hedonism. This is a pretty interesting theory. So reality is composed of, this is an argument, by the way, so it's going to build up. Number one, reality is a composition of experiences of different thrill levels. Each experience has a thrill level, or in our argument, we'll call it level of stimuli or thrill points. So reality is a composition of experiences with different thrill points. A walk in the park has a thrill point level of 20. Bowling with friends, maybe 40 thrill points. Sex, parties, drugs, alcohol, 100 points. These are thrilling activities, right? So when someone says, oh wow, that's so thrilling, it means it's a really high level of thrill, right? So high thrill points. People are made to experience reality, which is healthy and God-ordained blend of thrills, right? Reality is a healthy God-ordained or God-orchestrated blend of thrills, right? Yes, we do compose our own reality. Yes, a lot of times we have the choice to walk out of the house and either go to a park or go to a club. That's your choice. That's completely within your hands, right? So in a way, reality is your choice, right? How much thrill do you want in your life, right? How much, and with higher thrill, obviously there comes cost and benefit, like everything in life. But reality is a healthy composition of experiences. It is a choice, and that's something we're going to reference a little bit later. So, a hedonist is one who indulges disproportionately in activities with high thrill scores. So a hedonist is known to be a super physical, is someone who is super physical and highly invested in the physical world, right? All of us have a natural balance of spiritual to physical, right? Some of us are very mental and very deep, very philosophical and introspective, while conversely, there are a lot of those out there who are very involved in physical activities. They're all about cars and money and sex and drugs, and I mean, everyone to their own level, but there is a natural balance. Now, there's also a balance of our capabilities. I'm capable of reaching spiritual highs, while you're capable of reaching physical highs. Everyone has their own desires, right? And a hedonist is one who disproportionately enjoys or indulges in activities with high thrill scores, right? And the mind because the mind is on a constant pursuit of thrills. The mind is on a constant pursuit of thrills. Key point here. Here's a proof of that. I'm going to give you an example of a crazy study that was done not too long ago. If you sit in the bathroom, right, and it's half dark, pretty dark, and you're sitting in front of a mirror, you do not move a muscle. That means your eyes are staring directly at yourself in the mirror. It's completely dark, right? No action, no nothing, no stimuli. After 10 minutes, your mind begins to hallucinate. Your mind begins to see things. And your mind begins to see, some people report scary objects. This is a very well known fact, right? Many people do this. You start seeing scary objects. Some people describe monsters. Some people describe their parents with a different face. Some people describe themselves in a different. It gets pretty deep. It's a pretty crazy phenomenon, right? But the whole point, right? So scientists have explored why, right? Why is it that people see these weird objects in the mirror? Because the brain is bored. The brain needs stimuli. So if there is none being fed to it, the mind starts creating stimuli. How amazing is that? And it's very telling, because that is literal proof of the fact that people are chasing thrill. People are actually chasing stimuli, meaning that if there is an option of no stimuli to stimuli, the mind will 100% pick stimuli. This goes to show that, number one, whoever our creator, be it God or whoever you may believe, is actually putting emphasis on the present moment, right? Going back to a couple episodes ago, right? Number one, space and time, right? Spatio-temporal laws. We can only live in one place in one time. That's one proof of how important the present moment is. And number two is that the mind is constantly chasing stimuli, right? These two together show the power of the present moment. Anyway, separate idea. But the fact of the matter is that the mind is constantly chasing stimuli. Meaning whatever thrill and stimuli your mind gives it, right? Everyone's chasing thrill and stimuli, but there is an actual hunger for it, right? That's what the mirror example shows us. Now, but before we dive into tying all these things together, I want to give a brief thanks to our sponsor. Okay, so we just got off talking about how the mind is constantly chasing stimuli, right? Social media. Now we're going to talk about technology. Technology, when I talk about technology, I'm talking specifically about social media, right? And it's pretty fair to believe that technology and social media are synonymous. I mean, I looked up a study not too long ago of the percentage of your phone battery used on certain apps, and it's Facebook, Instagram, all the social media apps. And so that's the route I'm going to be taking. Social media brilliantly gathers all the reactionary content with thrill points of over 100 into one centralized location. Everything that sends a dopamine rush through your system, every video, every image, every single piece of media that is entered, that is on your phone, has a high thrill point. It's literally meant to do it. And if you look on the description of Instagram, for instance, or Facebook, right, it's activities that interest you. It's media, and all this is geared to give you interest, right? Keyword. It's supposed to give you interest, right? Social media gathers all the things that give you a thrill of over 100 or high thrills, right? Be it forms of nudity or anything that gives you any sort of thrill. It just puts and gathers in one centralized location. Think there's a constant concentration of things that give you thrills in one single place, right? So again, the mind is on a constant pursuit of thrills, and social media is giving you those thrills. You are the recipient of all those thrills, right? That's what makes social media so attractive. Now, next point here. This idea conditions this concentration of reactionary media conditions your mind in a way where you only react to something with 100 thrill points. For instance, your mind, if you're constantly fed, right? If your reality, if you're completely immersed in social media, and this conditions your mind in a way where it only reacts to the level of thrill that social media gives you. It sets a new standard for what you give your reaction to, right? For what you react to, what you give attention to, etc., right? The cost of your attention, the cost of your concentration is too high to where anything under 100 thrill points will not give you any interest anymore. Nothing gives you interest because there is such an overabundance of thrills on social media that it just cheapens the actual thrills of the reality around you. I have a friend who, we've been friends for about 3 years now, and I used to play violin. I do not play as often as I'd like to, but a few weeks ago, I shared with him the fact that I play violin, right? We've been friends for about 3 years. So if a friend tells you after 3 years of being friends that I play an instrument, right, that's a pretty substantial change to your image of me, right? So that's an objectively normal cause for a reaction, right? Now, I told him, right, we're both sitting down, we're chatting, we're eating, and I told him, hey, by the way, I'm weird that I didn't mention to you, but I play the violin. Cool. And takes another bite of a sandwich, right? And he kind of just, the most I got was like a little bit of a brief eyebrow raise and a shrug, right? The same reaction you would get to a good morning, or like not even a good morning, because a good morning, there is a reciprocation of a response, right? All he said was cool, right? And he said it in such a sociopathic way. And I'm not reading too much into it, right? You can clearly see there was no actual reaction. And I'm like, hey, that's like you telling me you're moving houses, wow, really? That's pretty crazy. That's interesting, right? That warrants a reaction. That is an appropriate response. There's an appropriate response, which would be any sort of reaction, right? Be it verbal, even an accentuated facial response would be nice, right? Nothing, dead, like silent, cool. I mean, what is that? It was just really weird, and it was weird to the point where I actually questioned, like, why are you not reacting? Like, it was actually really weird. It was a weird thing because I was actually questioning him, just mentally, just kind of wrestling with why he wouldn't react normally. And I figured it out. I mean, I know he's ridiculously involved in social media. I mean, we all are, we all are obsessed in a way, but he's really involved, right? Most of his life is spent on social media. He's got many accounts that he kind of snoops around on. He's pretty most of his day. If he's not eating or doing something else, he's on social media. So he is a prime example of this entire idea. He is so invested in all his time is spent on social media, where things give him thrills to unbelievable degrees with such high thrill points, right? All these biologically implanted thrills, like sex and drugs and money, right? All these high thrills are constantly fed to him, like he's just being fed and fed and fed with all this reactionary content. And so me claiming that I play violin isn't really that big of a deal. I mean, there's an overabundance. There's an objective overabundance of, wow, that's crazy, of interesting, of just interesting reactionary content that says dopamine through his system. It's constant. So for me, claiming that I play violin is not that big of a deal. It doesn't affect him, right? And that's a very, very, very sad reality. So before we dive into the problem, which I am going to tie everything together, I want to give another brief thanks to our sponsor. All right, so the problem. We just got off stating how social media is the culprit for for feeding us reactionary content or reactionary media with thrill points over 100. Now, here's the problem with everything, right? So, just to review everything, reality is a blend. It is a healthy mix of 100-point activities or 100-point experiences and 10-point experiences, right? 10 thrill points, meaning a walk in the park, going bowling with friends, going to the beach, etc. Right? It all goes up, and it's a healthy composition. It's a healthy mix. Everything mixes together. Right? That is reality. Reality is a zone of fluctuation. Right? And that's also what attracts people to technology, because you're in control. Right? There's no fluctuation. People are scared of what they don't know. That's just a fact. People have an objective fear. People have an actual biologically implanted fear of what they don't know. People tend to stay within their safety zone, right? Or what they can control. And social media is a perfect example of that. You are the orchestrator of any affair that goes on within your control on social media. So anyway, reality is a blend. Now, technology is strictly 100 points, while reality is a mix of 110 and 30 and 40. So all the thrills of life are disproportionately concentrated in one place. All the thrills that you're supposed to enjoy in life, right? So if life is an experience of walk in a park, an experience of life, an experience of sex, an experience of clubs, an experience of traveling, right? Those are all mixed level activities, right? You get thrill from here, you get a thrill from there, you get a thrill from here, right? But all different degrees. Technology is strictly 100, right? All the thrills of life, all the amazing thrills of life, all the amazing thrills of life are all concentrated into one place. It's a very, very sad reality. And the fact of the matter is that the mind is, so what's the big deal if they're all the thrills are concentrated into one place? Well, we explored earlier through the mirror example that the mind actually has a predilection. The mind has a bias toward picking up whatever it's concentrated in, right? It has a predilection for thrills. It wants thrills. It is a constant, people are constantly looking for action, for the pursuit of pleasure, right? That's what people are actually invested in. So while reality has an average thrill point of 20 and social media and technology has 100, this disparity makes people ridiculously attracted to only the high thrills of life, to the point where anything else, a walk in the park, becomes boring. When people complain that reality is boring, it actually is. There is real validity to that statement. Reality is boring. When you're on social media and every thrill of life and all the thrills of life are concentrated to the point where you don't appreciate anything else, that makes everything else boring. If your bar of getting attention, if your bar of concentration is now set at 100, where it was at a healthy point with 20, nothing else, everything under 100 doesn't set anymore. Only hedonistic pleasures, only pleasures that are strictly physical, that give you physical thrills, get your attraction. So this is essentially why technology converts people into hedonists, because people are on a constant search of thrill. People have a predilection for thrills, and the only thrills people get are from 100, right? Or only from experiences with 100 points. So, I'll give you another example here. I am not involved in social media, so I like to think that my things that get my attention are pretty low. While conversely, my friends have at least like 100 reactionary points, right? Everything that gets their attention has to be super substantial, has to be crazy, right? So if we're taking a walk in a park or a waterfall, right? If I'm just sitting at the park, I'm perplexed. I can't even describe to you the magic I feel when I'm at a park. There's so much to learn. There's so much. It's truly amazing how much a walk in a park is captivating for me. I can be there for hours. So while my friends will be there, that's actual hell for them, because there is nothing there. That's like it is not captivating at all. There's nothing interesting for them, because that's not, for me, a walk in the park has a thrill point level of 30, while mine is 20. While theirs is 100 and this is a 30-point experience, it means nothing. There's a 70-point disparity in thrills. What it means to be in tune with reality means that your reactionary points are in tune with what reality brings you, right? There's no thrill, right? If the lower the bar of your thrill, the more things that are thrilling around you, right? The lower, if your standard for what interests you is a 10, any experience above a 10 is going to be super captivating. So it's unfortunate. It is a very, very sad reality that we're all doomed toward, because no longer can people appreciate a walk in the park, right? Everyone's attention span is lower. So while, for example, I was reading a Time magazine, right? Time magazine from the 50s, and there was an advertisement in that in the magazine, a Time magazine for Coke. And Coke had and I looked over, right? And it was really weird. It had your classic Arctic scene with a polar bear and a fizzling cup of Coke, right? And there was a small picture, and under the picture there were 3 paragraphs of what? 3 paragraphs of an advertisement for Coca-Cola. How ridiculous. People today would turn the page immediately just at the sight of a Coke. But to have 3 paragraphs describing, that is actually absurd. 3 paragraphs describing in detail of why you should buy this, why it's an amazing drink, how good it is for you, how tasty it is, right? People can barely tolerate giving their attention for 3 seconds at a banner that says Coke, enjoy, whatever it may be, right? So how it's crazy how much people's attention span has just changed, right? The reason people's attention span has changed too is for the same cause, because their attention span is, I need 100 points or more to captivate me, and what you're giving me, your conversation, your content is only 30, right? So the reason people's attention span is so short is because that's the amount of time it takes for them to assess the disparity, right? Oh wow, it's 30. All right, detention deterred. Right, completely separate thing, but it's unfortunately an epidemic that affects all of us. No longer can someone appreciate a walk in the park. Reality is constantly full of captivation. We're going back to the sponge example. People who have an open sponge can suck everything around them, right? Can suck in all the information, can internalize, can breathe in, can inhale all the brilliance around them. But people who don't have a high thrill level, who have a super high thrill level, look constantly, everything is in grayscale, only what gives them a thrill. But for someone who has a low captivation point, right, someone who has low thrill standard, the whole world is in color. And everything in color is the literal definition of thrills. And with that, we are going to close. So thank you so much for listening. All your support helps tremendously. Share this podcast with all your family and friends. And be sure to tune in every single day for new episodes of Existential.